Okay. Um, I'm going to try this thing with the AI companion and see what it does now. Okay. Um, so, hi everyone. We're continuing with last class, more or less, with the ethical wills. Before I turned on the
Right.
recording. Thank you. I recapped a little bit of what we did. So let me share the screen with you now for where we are from where we stopped off last week. I have 3 PowerPoints open here, so I need the ethical will one. Okay. So, okay, doke. So, Louise, would you read this?
Yep.
This is the end of a life speech, and I'm going to just get some water. Okay, thank you.
Okay. The deathbed speech is a recurrent motif in the Hebrew Bible. Sometimes it is from father to sons, like Jacob, and sometimes from leader to people, like Moses. Yet, as a poetic list of sayings about the 12 sons of Israel, these two texts are very similar to each other and quite different from other deathbed speeches. For example, David, like Jacob, gives a father's deathbed speech. Addressing his son and heir Solomon, David instructs him to adhere to Yahweh, God's and to God, and mostly to settle scores with foes and friend. The message is personal, and he offers specific advice for Solomon to follow. This is quite different than Jacob's final address, which is to all of his sons and is about their distant future as tribes of Israel, not about their immediate personal lives. A similar observation can be made about Joshua's final words in Joshua 23 and 24, 1 to 27, both of which are quite different in style and balance to Moses' poem to the tribes in Deuteronomy 33. Joshua expresses concern about the Israelites forsaking God and worshiping idols, warning them against future transgressions. He does not speak about individual tribes, nor does he speak in poetry. In short, while the final speeches of Jacob and Moses are part of a motif that extends to other biblical accounts, they are similar in style and content only to each other, a collection of poetic epithets about Israel's mostly bright future, addressing each tribe directly. Despite these similarities, the two poems differ sharply.
Okay, so what are some of the motifs that we find in end of life speeches? I've tried to underline some of them as we go here. The first is, let's look at the first line. It's from the parent to the child, right? Or children or grandchildren, right? In other words, it's last words, and it's a message from, from us, let's say, to those who come after us. Okay, and again, it can be on the deathbed, but it doesn't have to be. In other words, it could be end of life, or you could start writing them now, because while we're in full, most of us are in full capacity, facility, whatever you want to call it. And so maybe now's the time to be writing it, right? Not to wait till we have one foot in the grave. Now, notice here also, it's an opportunity to settle scores with foes, not only with foes, but who else can you settle scores with?
And friend.
And friends
Family.
or family, right? In other words, this could be an opportunity to settle scores and scores, friends, family, whatever, but also to sort of not only settle scores, but what else could you do here? I'm going to add something that's not in this quotation, but it's also an opportunity to do what?
Apologize.
To apologize. In other words,
Right.
I made mistakes, and it's a time to share, with your family or whatever. Okay, it's definitely should be personal. In other words, you might want to use some, previous. What do you call those things when you have an example? A
Collection.
No, when you have a pre a pre you know a
Prenup.
pre
Yeah.
pre
Nuptial,
what?
a prenup,
No, no,
prenuptial.
no, 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 not prenup. When you have
Premonition?
no,
No.
no, no, not, no, no, it has nothing to do with premonition. When you have um, a pre-made speech that you then could alter to make it into your own. And then
Oh,
at Margie, maybe you do editing and stuff like that. You're muted. There's
You
a
have a
word.
prepared script.
A prepared script. It's like when I go into, if I go into Word or something, and
Right.
then they ask me, do you want to write a letter or something like that? And you have a
Right.
format
Oh,
already.
you mean it like a template?
A template, that's exactly the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm looking for. So in other words, you might want to use, right? I'll put it here, use a template, all right? So I don't forget that.
Right.
All right. So you might want to use a template, but first of all, you don't have to follow it blindly, and you don't have to put all of these things in. There's all sorts of possibilities. Okay. Very often in the Bible, since we're also, these are people who believe and they're following God and whatever. So very often there is some sort of optimism or hope for the future, which I think is legitimate, because why? If you're writing to your children or your progeny, you would hope that there will be, there will be a future for them, right? I mean, today we're with what's going on in the world, we don't know, but we still would like to be a little optimistic, at least when we're writing to our children. We could say, we hope you'll survive the warming of the planet, but I won't be here, to see it, ha, ha, ha. I mean, we're not going to do that, right? We're not going to say something like that. But the point is that we could follow a template when we don't have to. What I want to really say is there's no rules. And it could, even though some of these end of life speeches are in the form of poetry, certainly the two that we saw. Did I do that last week with you? Did I share the two different the two poems of Deuteronomy 33 and no, I think I didn't do that with you. I think I did that in a class that I taught last week with the two tribes, comparing what the two tribes in Deuteronomy and also in at the end of Deuteronomy and also at the end of Bereshit. Did I show that to you last time?
No.
Mhm.
All right, so that was a class that I taught the next day. Okay, I got the idea from this class actually of doing it. I didn't do that. I didn't do that with you. Okay. So what you have here is something really very interesting. It does not have to be poetry, but by the way, if you are a poet, or if you like poetry, or you want to put it in the form of a rhyme or something, why not? In other words, you could be literary. You could be literary in doing it. Okay, and again, once again, the idea of sort of saying bright future. You might want to also talk about, which is sort of implied here, about, how you would hope that your family would stay Jewish, and stuff like that, right? Especially in America, where you have something like that. So I have here, it's very hard to read this, and I downloaded two of these, but I downloaded this from the Ethical Wills. I photostated it, I didn't download it, because it was short. Right? It was very, very, very short, right? Toby, could you read this? I'm making it as big as I can. If not, I'll open up the book and I'll read it.
Okay. From Hamburg, Germany. As soon as I have passed away, my students may do me the kindness for the uplift of my soul to study Torah from the moment of my death until the purification rite. But I do not request that they do this at the place where I expire, because I do not wish to impose a burden on anyone. So they may do this in their own homes. From the time of the purification until returning from the cemetery, 2 of my students may remain to study. Therefore, they need not go along. The minyan quorum for prayer should be conducted at the place of my death, but only during the week of Shiva, and the studying should be done from my own Mishnah volumes. I would not like the study to be done through paid individuals. Further, I beg of my many students that whoever is able and has the desire to uplift my soul should study at least one Mishnah with the Bertonero commentary during the 12 months, morning and evening. Those unable to do so may recite at least one psalm morning and evening. Anyone doing so may first recite, I hereby do this for the purification of the soul of Shimon ben Uri Shraga. Thanks I say to them in advance, be assured that you have reassured me. I also beg of the associations Ohel Yitzchak and Mikor Chayim, with which I was associated many years, to observe my yortzeit and that of my wife of blessed memory by conducting a special Mishnah session and to recite the rabbinic Kaddish afterward. I hope the wish will be complied with.
Okay.
Wow.
Isn't this is really amazing? I put it in here because it was very short. Okay. And Samson and Nathan was an instructor of Bible and Talmud, as well as mathematics and physics, right, in Hamburg. And he received ordination from leading rabbis, all right? And he also had a doctorate at the university, all right? But he was not interested in being a rabbi. He wanted to be a teacher, and he taught for 57 years in his native city, okay? So, and he also, besides teaching, he was also a judge on the rabbinic court of Hamburg, and he also taught the 2 adult study fellowships mentioned in his will. So what can we say about this? Feel free to, to comment on this.
He's encouraging his students to do what worked for him, which is to study and to continue to study.
Okay. In his memory, right? But
Right.
even
Right.
so, he doesn't want to impose on them, right?
Right.
Right.
There's a lot of kindness here, like if you can't do this, then you can at least do that, right? And it's
He's letting them know how they can, because sometimes when somebody passes away, we're like, well, how can I do
Do that.
something? And it's got letting them know what they can do. It's
Right,
very kind.
right.
It serves as a motivator as well.
Okay,
Yes.
what do you mean by that? That's good. What do you mean by that?
Well, he's encouraging, he puts out, if you can, I would like for you to do X, Y, Z. And that might motivate someone like me, okay, to go ahead and try to do what the request was. And if I'm unable to do that full request, at least I am motivated to do the other, read the Psalms. Morning and evening. So I still think it can help to motivate someone who might be floundering after his death.
Okay, and also, what's really positive about this? But both of you have touched upon this by giving a certain order, right?
Right.
Like we know we have to sit shiva, let's say, all right? By the way, I understand in America, very few people sit shiva for 7 days today. I mean,
Right.
it's become less and less frequent. My son told me in California, you're lucky if they'll sit shiva for one day, even
Wow.
in his congregation. Yeah. I'm not talking about the Orthodox people, continue to do that, but in the conservative world, it's at least on the West Coast. I can't speak for the East
It's
Coast.
usually 3 days here.
Right. And also it's become a custom very often, since people live so far away, very often they sit for 3 days in one home and then they go home and then they sit, for another day or two wherever they live. So, I mean, that's another, I believe we did that for my father-in-law, if I'm not mistaken. We sat Shiva with his mother. And then when we came back to Israel, I don't even know if it was during the Shiva period, to tell you the honest truth. I don't remember because it was during the holidays. And, during the holidays, Shiva is very strange. But we did go back, and I think we sat one day, so that people could come to us more for their sake than even for our sake. So what you have here is giving a sense of order. And in some respects, this is very much like a regular will, right? It's not so much... It's like do this, that, and the other thing. Right? It's not so much an ethical will, right? I think. I mean, what do you think about what I just said?
Yeah, I mean, you could consider it an ethical will, I think, because he's giving them some instructions, He's setting out what he hopes will happen, and it's also, in a sense, still, related to reverence for God. I mean, the whole procedure.
Okay. And the idea that what they do will uplift his soul, right?
Right.
Okay. By the way, a lot of these things are the procedures that these are the procedures that take place very often today. In other words, a lot of people, go. Ariella, my daughter, and my son in California, observe 12 months. By the way, you might be noticing here 12 months, and some of you might be saying to yourself, wait a minute, I thought that it's only 11 months.
But it's only
Right?
11 for parents, right?
No, the 11 months is the reason people stop at 11 months is sort of has to do with a, I don't want to insult anyone when I say this, but not a bubble micing, but this idea that if you go a full 12 months, the person must have been sinful. So people stop at 11 months so that because that's the tradition. And so if you stop at 11, so you're saying my parent was not sinful. Whereas if you go for 12 months, well, it's a little suspicious because maybe he did something wrong. And our children had a big debate about this, and they studied it and everything. And they decided that Mike would have thought of this stuff as being nonsense, the 11 months, and they observed the full 12 months. On the other hand, my nieces, my sister observed 11 months because they followed the tradition. Had nothing to do with being good or bad. So we had interesting discussions. So I have one more here. It's also very short because this one came out so poorly. I didn't bother to do a second one, but I'll read it to you. This is by Valentine Wolf. It was written in 1924. This one was written when? Well, we don't know exactly when it was written, but we can see the dates up there. This one was written in 1924, and Valentine Wolf, the daughter that he mentions, immigrated to the U.S. in 1937 from Germany. Okay. Today, on Sabbath Eve, I write this, feeling that my days and hours are numbered. First of all, I thank dear God that he has granted me long life, though I have experienced both good and bad days. Dear children and grandchild, I thank you heartily for the affection you have shown me even into my old age. May the good Lord reward you all for it. Maintain your friendship together, the same as though I were still in your midst. Especially do I thank my beloved Rosa, that's the daughter, for her devoted efforts. May better days return. Keep God before your eyes in all that you do, and be not godless as so many are. Then will dear God keep you in his protection and enable you to experience only good. You're still living father and grandfather. Okay, so what do you say about this one? Completely different style, right? First of all.
Right.
He's writing it feeling that his days are numbered.
Yeah.
Okay.
He wants to make sure that his children and grandchild know that he is grateful for what they've done, that he's going to die in relative peace when so I think it's very reassuring and grateful.
Right. There's a lot of gratitude there. And he's saying, which I think is very important, maintain your friendship together as though I were still in your midst. And then he picks out one person in particular, right? And then again, keep God before your eyes in all that you do. So in other words, hoping that they will remain, and then he points out that he's still alive, which I think is like a little touch of humor. That was on page 63 of the Ethical Wills. So we have here something, really very interesting. And
Naomi, may I
yeah.
interrupt? Who did you
Sure.
say wrote this last one?
What?
Who wrote this last one?
Valentine Wolff. He was born in 1838 and he died in 1924 in Germany, in West Germany. Okay. And his daughter immigrated in 1937 with her family. Rosa Meir, that's her name. Okay.
Immigrated to where?
To the United States.
Oh, to the United States.
Doesn't
And
say-
he was in Israel?
Germany.
In Germany, yeah. So
Germany.
she got out before.
Okay.
She got out before. Okay. So let me just share with you one thing which I, on my own, when I decided, I think I told some of you I was interested in ethical wills, and I said, oh, I'm going to have AI write an ethical will for me. But then I started writing an ethical will, right? It's somewhat personal, but not that terribly personal. And I do intend to have, maybe I read it to one of my kids and they said, oh, that's lovely. Should I should I change it or should I go into AI or whatever? So they said, oh, you don't have to do that. Anyway, let me just find it here. I call it ethical will first draft, all right? So what I'll share with you, which I haven't been sharing with all of my classes, is that I actually am planning to, and those of you who know me personally, like Marcia, but from my childhood, but some of you also know me personally from over the years, I'm planning to move up north to be near my daughter, and I'm going into a retired facility, okay?
Wonderful.
While I have all my marbles with me, right?
Great idea, Naomi.
And I would love to be teleported from here to there and not have to go through all my furniture, et cetera, and whatever. I mean, just the thought of it. Obviously, people will help me. I'm putting up my house on the market. But anyway, I am planning to do that, all right? So that's the background for my writing an ethical will. All right, let me share it with you. I don't think it's too personal. If it is too personal, I'll quickly, stop. But let me see. So I have to share the screen. And then what I thought we would do, one second. All right, so this is the background. I'll let someone else read it. Marcia, you can read it in my tone. You have to unmute yourself, Marcia.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
Now we.
Okay. Now that I'm moving, it's time to write an ethical will. My parents left me with lots of furniture, bric-a-brac, and pictures. That was their life and business. In fact, my father's last words were about the value of my childhood desk, the imitation Biedermeier. I never had time to discover what my taste is, and it's too late now. Never too late. I'm planning to simplify my life, and I'm doing you all a real big favor. It may seem like a headache now, but we all will share in it, rather than you doing it when I die. You can thank me then, posthumously, for having downsized and moved to Dor Tivon when I was capable of making up my mind and decisions. So what do I want to leave you all? Continue being friends with each other, despite the geographical differences. You can model yourself on my staying friends with my sister all her life and how we intersected with one another. There may be political differences, but this should not break up the family. I hope all 7 of you, my grandchildren, will be there for each other after your parents are no longer alive. I hope you will renew contact with Josiah and Elizabeth's children, since they are your cousins. I hope you have lifelong curiosity to follow your dreams and that you will all get married at some point and have children. But if you don't, that should not stop you from being happy and satisfied with your life. I came into myself as a scholar when I was 42 years old. So you have plenty of time to get there. I hope you will stay close to the Jewish tradition, but will be tolerant of each other's differences. For that is how your parents were raised, and and how you were raised to be pluralists. I hope you will all find yourselves in Jewish communities wherever you decide to settle down, and that you will bring your talents, music, art, teaching, writing, finance, rabbinics, to enrich the lives of others as well as yourselves. I hope you stay in good health and cultivate good habits of eating and exercise, that you study on a regular basis, perhaps learning something new every day about the world, your community, yourselves, your friends and family. I wish you contentment in whatever you choose and no regrets about what you choose not to do. As to why I wrote no regrets in bold, someone once referred to me instead of no regrets as regret. Cool. When we are nostalgic about the past, we always bring up what we could have done and feel sorrow over it. My philosophy has always been to take life as it comes, as serendipity, a sense that you close one door and open another.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
So thank you. Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Naomi. Thank you
But
for
Yes, thanks for sharing, Naomi.
I want to add, first of all, congratulations on making the decision to move, and we're all going to come and visit.
Absolutely. It's up north. It's beautiful up there.
Yes,
So,
right.
Yes,
okay.
we can come visit.
And for the first time, I actually looking at apartments in Jerusalem at an enormous price. My daughter and I discussed assistant living, also a senior living. Anyway, my mother, who I think you may remember, I
remember her more as Carol's. Carol is her younger sister,
mother.
my age, because we were friends. I was friends with her younger sister.
Yeah.
But
and my sister sometimes could have been very annoying as a sister because she was the younger.
Aren't all sisters?
What? There's only two of us, and she's the younger one. My mother wrote. I mean, she had a will. Yeah. They had a will, the formal thing and all, but she wrote what I guess in a way was a codicil, but it was ethical in the sense that she knew our personalities, and she wrote, and it was her to the period on the sentences. She wrote who should get what and how we should do it, and I don't remember, and of course, like an idiot, I don't know where that letter was. I mean, that's a piece of art, but I've been thinking in the middle of the night when I don't sleep, instead of reading a mystery or watching, something on the computer, I think of what I should write down for my grandchildren and the great grandchildren. Some of which isn't always what they would want to hear. But when my younger daughter was visiting me with her three children, one of them admired a picture that I had on the wall. And there's a lot of pictures on the wall. And I said to her, if you really like it, take a yellow sticky, put your name on the back of it. So when the time comes, you'll know this is in case anybody else really wants it, which probably won't happen. And my daughter was upset about that. But the other children in the family, they thought it was a great idea. And they took the yellow stickies and they tore them up and they went through the house and they picked them up. But they did it instead of, yellow stickies we have by the thousands, I think. I can't read what they wrote. But I think it's a good idea.
They're great. Now, see, okay, so this is a good example of an ethical will spurring you to,
Yes, absolutely.
Spurring you.
I think it's a really good idea. People, people look, they never would take children to the cemetery. Now children go. Right. And going to the cemetery, even though who knows what they fathom is there, but it's a realization that things change, and the children can follow through on that.
Right. So, but
anyway, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Oh, I want to go back just to,
Yes, no, thank
so
you.
I wrote this really like just, it came out, right? It just came out the way it was. And then planned to edit it and do something with it, But then when I read it to, I don't know which kid I read it to, but one of them, and probably Abigail, who's the writer in our family. So when I read it to her, she said, "It's fine the way it is. Leave it the way it is." I wanted to put in some literary references in there and stuff like that. And maybe I will write a different type. But right now I know at least my mind is clear. I've done it,
Right.
And it is my voice. It's not AI's voice. But
Right.
what I wanted to do is take a character, and I thought I've been talking to you for so long about Beruriah. I thought that I would take a character who is not that well known. She's well enough known, but not that well known from the Talmudic times, and not look at everything about her, because there are a lot of things about her which are interesting, and have her relate, again, using AI, making an ethical will based on that particular episode, all right? So let me just tell you one thing about those of you whose name, if the name Beruriah means absolutely nothing to you, I'm assuming that all of you have heard the name Beruriah.
Right.
Rabbi Meir.
What is it?
Beruriah.
Gloria?
It's hard to read.
Beruriah.
Beruria.
H or
I've never heard it. Okay.
never heard of it.
Bakura. She's fascinating.
She's really fascinating. She was a learned woman, all right? She was a learned woman, and a lot has been written about her. And then, both from feminist points of view and from traditional points of view. And and she came to sort of like a very.
So where are you?
She can't. Wait, let me just mute.
You have to mute her. You have to mute. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I just muted her. Yeah, Geraldine?
I'm sorry. I was having trouble hearing. Can you spell one more time?
Yeah, I'll actually call. Let me just take one of my things here. Let me just share the screen here with you.
Thanks, Geraldine. I still couldn't hear it.
We'll start with that. She was a very learned person.
I'm gonna have to leave soon, though. Anyway.
Okay. Wait, what am I doing? I'm sharing a screen, right?
Yes.
Here we go. I think that's what I want to share with you. Okay. So, all right, you could spell her name differently. You could spell it Beruria, Beruriah, or you could put an E in there to make it easier, okay, to pronounce. If you have a B-E-R, right? But in Hebrew, it's Beruriah without the E, but it's usually spelled with an E, right? So
Beruriah.
She was a
character.
A very diligent student, all right? And so you have here in the Talmud, in the Sachim 62b, which actually I think I put it into my PowerPoint. 1 minute. Yeah, I did. Okay. So wait a minute. Let me stop the sharing, and then I'll put it. I do have the PowerPoint. I put together a PowerPoint about her. Okay, Beruriah PowerPoint.
I have to go. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom, Susan.
Okay. I'm taping it, so it will be available after.
Yes, I look forward to seeing it. I'll look at it. Thanks.
I sometimes don't get around to it so quickly. Last week I was away, so it took me time to put it up, but I did put it up eventually. So wait, what am I doing? I'm sharing the screen with the PowerPoint now, right?
No.
Share.
Yes.
We don't see it.
No, I'm doing it now. Okay. Okay. So, by the way, before I read that first one here, let me just show you a picture here of being imagined. This is imagined, all right? And maybe we'll come back to that picture later, or not today, but we'll come back to the picture again, because this might possibly, there's a very sad tale with her 2 sons dying. Maybe this is related. There's all sorts of stories about her, which are very interesting. But, and there's also some interesting background to her learnedness, all right? But, so you have here one rabbi, coming to another rabbi and telling him to teach me, right? Teach me from the book of Yochasin, right? Yochasin is like the word Yichus, right? Yichus,
Yeah.
which means who you come from, right? You have Yichus, it depends on who your parents are. A big book of Midrashim on the genealogies listed in the book of Chronicles, which, by the way, is really one of the most boring books because it's full of names, and most people don't read it for pleasure. Many years ago, I set myself a task when I was sitting in the synagogue, and I said I was going to, during the boring parts, basically about, there are sometimes boring parts in the synagogue, right? We should, God forbid I should say that, but there are.
Yeah.
And so I set myself, I said, okay, I'm going to read the Bible from beginning to end. And I really did that. I spent this was before they had all these groups that they would study together. I think it's called 926 or something like that.
929.
What, 929? Thank you. Okay. This was before that. And I just said, okay, I'm going to read one or two things. And of course, it was wonderful sailing from, Bereshit, Shemot, and then it got a little bit more boring. But anyway, I persevered. I went through the whole Bible, probably in a very short time period. You could tell that I was very bored in the synagogue. And then when I got to Chronicles, I said, oh my gosh, this is super deadly. But I persevered, and I did it. I have no idea what I did. I don't remember anything. But, because it was, it was also in Hebrew, so I really don't remember what I did. But I did it, okay? All right. So he comes before Rabbi Yochanan. And Rabbi Yochanan asked him, where are you from? He said, from Lod. That's a city. And where is your dwelling place?
Lord.
In Nahardiyah. That's another place. He said to him, we do not expound on the book of Yochasin to residents of Lod or of Nahardiyah, and certainly not in this case where you are from Lod and your dwelling place is in Nahariya. So
Nahardiyah.
Right, not Nahariya. I know.
Different place.
I know. And we have Joyce here too. We serve as a reminder, right? So what is it? What's the tone here of Rabbi Yochanan to Rabbi Simlai? What's the tone? He's asking to teach me something, and what does Yochanan say?
Condescending tone.
Yeah.
Very condescending.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're from Lod.
Yeah, you're not important enough.
Exactly. It's like, you're not from Jerusalem, you're from Dimona, you're nothing. Okay. So eventually, Rabbi Simlai prevailed on him, and he agreed. Rabbi Simlai said to him, let us learn it over the course of 3 months. Okay? We don't know how big this book is, but he felt that, it needed to be done in a certain amount of time. Is that a lot? Is that, are we talking about every day? Are we talking about just Shabbatot? We don't really know, but okay. And then what does Rabbi Yochanan do, this condescending person? He took a clump of earth and he threw it at him. He said, if Beruriah, the wife of Rabbi Meir and the daughter of Hananiah ben Trajon, who could learn 300 halakhic rulings a day from 300 different masters, nevertheless did not finish it in 3 years, how do you think you could finish it in 3 months?
Oh.
So, first of all, we'll talk about Beruriah in a minute. But what is the tone here? The tone is still
Condescending.
Condescending to him. Well, yeah.
And nasty.
He's condescending because even though he's saying that this woman did it, it's really nothing if you can't do it too, or whatever. He didn't say this was great that she did it.
No, but there's point to say, so she could not finish it in 3 years.
Yeah.
And he thinks he could finish something in 3 months, right?
He's lower than a woman as far as studying is concerned.
Okay, so first of all, he's lower than a woman. And And Beruriah, now let's come back to Beruriah. What do we learn about Beruriah here?
She was
great.
the
Yes.
wife and a daughter of rabbis.
Okay, so first of all, she has yichus. The irony is he wants him to teach the book of Yochassid, right?
Yeah.
About genealogy. So first of all, she has yichus herself, okay? She's the wife of Meir and the daughter of Hananiah. And what has she done?
300 halakha rulers in a day.
Right?
Wow.
She was very learned, right?
Right.
And she's still learning, right? Because she's 3 years. She goes on and on and on. In other words, by the way, very often we talk about the Yam Shel Torah, the Yam Shel Talmud, the sea, right? The sea of learning.
Right.
It's something that you never can finish. Okay? So she is someone who's very learned. Now, in the background of a lot of things that we're going to see, we're going to look at another one right now. So he's very right? Rabbi Yochanan here is very, very condescending, and he's very, so Beruriah has the reputation of being very learned, okay? And then we have an example of her being learned, okay? I started out by taking this from one source, and then I took it from another source. So we have here, afterwards, I'll read the rest of it. So Rabbi Yossi, right, the Galilean, was once on a journey when he met Beruriah. By what road, he asked her, do we go to Lydia? That's the same thing as Lod. Foolish Galilean, she replied. Did not the sages say this? Engage not in much talk with women. You should have asked, by which to Lydia? What is she saying you should take out?
Road.
The road.
Right. Okay. So there's a lot of discussion about this, all right? But I don't want to analyze it too much, but let's just look at this first, because this is quoted all the time. What do we learn here about Beruriah?
She has a wit.
Okay, she has a wit. Why does she have a wit?
Well, she could have just answered his question, but she wanted to give him a little
pushka. I mean, it seems condescending to me too.
Okay, she's condescending, exactly. Right. She's calling him a fool.
She was not impressed with him.
Right. She's not impressed with him. Okay. And she has like this one-upsmanship. All right.
Yeah.
Not only that, but she's also referring to something which is in Pirkei Avot, which is the ethics of the fathers, right? Avot 1:5, where it says, do not talk too much with a woman. So she's also telling him, why are you bothering to talk to me and all?
Right.
Yeah.
Right? You shouldn't, why are you, and if you're talking, why are you wasting words? You shouldn't be, you shouldn't be doing that, right? So this is one thing, all right? It's interesting, in this translation, it says, by which road shall we go to Lod, all right? Does that mean she's including her in the road, right? Anyway, the whole idea that he's talking to a woman is problematic, but she's also making fun because she's a woman, right?
Yeah.
And then it continues. Most people stop right here, all right? But then it continues. Beruriah, I'll make it a little bit bigger so you can read it. Beruriah found a certain disciple who was writing his lesson in a whisper.
Reciting.
What?
Reciting.
What did I say?
Writing.
All right. Who was reciting?
Makes a difference. Yeah.
Yes, it is. His lesson in a whisper. She kicked him and said to him, is it not written, ordered in all and secure? That is, if it is ordered by means of all your 248 limbs, it will be preserved. But if not, it will not be preserved. Now, she's talking to a student or a disciple who's doing what?
Reciting the Bible.
Well, his lesson, but what? But what is she upset about?
He's whispering. Why was
What should he be doing? It's
saying it out loud?
we don't know.
Saying it
Right?
with the full force of his thinking and his body.
Right. In other words,
Is he whispering? He's ashamed of what he's doing?
maybe. In other words, we don't really know what she objects to here. Right. It would have to be, we'd have to understand more about it. But her attitude to him is, again, she's like from above.
Right.
By the way, is it her disciple? It's not clear. Right?
Mhm.
She herself a pedagogue. And she says you have to use all, what does it mean, all your 248 limbs? What does that mean?
I don't know how many bones are in our body.
I don't know.
Body
But
to-
in
order
other
to-
words, if you study
With
all
all of you, all of you.
All of them.
All that, right?
okay, exactly, right? With all of your being, if you study
Right.
that way, you will remember it. It will be preserved. Now, remember, we're talking about an oral tradition in the Talmud where people
Right.
actually learned things by heart. Before the Talmud was written down, it was an
Right.
oral tradition, right? Passed on from generation to generation, right? And at some point, it was written down, but it took a long time till it was actually written down. Especially the Mishnah, it took a long time. So people had to learn. There were people who literally knew things by heart, right? And that was considered a sign of brilliance, right? Not to understand anything, but to know it by heart, right? So if you're not using all of yourself, including your voice and whatever, you're not going to preserve it. It won't be preserved for the generations. So what is Beruriah basically? She is basically kicking him, first of all, right?
It
and
seems to me that with her status and her learnedness, she also learned all the negatives that the previous rabbis were practicing.
She
Right.
could have been
She
nicer.
doesn't come off as a nice person.
Okay, exactly.
Here.
She's very haughty herself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now
Full of
Rachel,
herself.
and full of herself.
Which is why they took her down a few pegs.
Okay, we'll come to that. Not today, but we'll come back to that. Right? We have to have a little bit of what do you call it?
Prelude.
We'll wait. Okay. So the story. This is Rachel Adler writing here. Barbara, you want to read this? The story is laden with ironies.
Oh.
Sorry. The story is laden with ironies. Rabbi Yosef, fearing that a superfluous pleasantry will open him to lust, rudely asks directions without a greeting. Beruriah obligingly demonstrates how he might have made the conversation briefer yet, thereby prolonging their contact. Not only must Rabbi Yosef converse with a human woman, he must be rebuked by her, not only rebuked, but taught Torah. And not just any Torah, but precisely the dictum he had been trying so zealously to observe. Beruriah speaks ironically to the obtuse Rabbi Yosef. In response to his zeal, she exposes the sexist dictum and teasingly reproaches its adherent for not observing it.
Okay, so this is Rachel Adam, who wrote an article, The Virgin in the Brothel. By the way, here's another picture of Beruriah that I found here. Okay. So wait, let me just write, like we're going to continue from here next time. Let me just insert text box, continue from here. I'm not sure if this will be exactly, but at least I know what we've covered from here. So what we have here really is a very interesting thing, which to a certain degree depends on the whole attitude of the rabbis to women's learning in the first place. All right. And perhaps next week we'll actually look at that, but the exact quotations. But there's a conflict between Rabbi Ben Azai and Eliezer between should women learn, and there's one of them says women should not be learning at all, and any woman who learns is as if she's studying things that are worth absolutely nothing. The word is tiflut. We'll talk about that. maybe next week. And the other rabbi says she definitely should be learning, and she should be learning enough. And I think we may have come across this quotation in the past when we studied the Sotah, that she should know enough to understand the laws of Sotah, so that she could protect herself when the time comes. Right. So you have here the Sotah. If you remember, that's the waters the waters of
the bitter waters.
The bitter waters for the wife, the adulteress, the so-called adulterous wife, or the husband who suspects her of adultery. So you have here in the background a big thing going, a big conflict, or even a form of polemic. Should women actually be learning? Right? And strangely enough, today, where we're so proud of women scholars, etc., there are a lot of people who are opposed to women learning in those days, and even saw it as sinful and something that shouldn't be done. So we're going to see in the Beruriah study, in the study in Beruriah, we're going to see what Marcia is hinting already at, the undermining of a woman who is a scholar. Okay. And like cutting off her legs? There's an expression. I forget what the expression is. Yes, Barbara. And then anyone wants to make a comment, feel free, and then we'll conclude. And next week we'll continue with this, but also with ethical wills. In other words, I want to get that in as well. Yeah, Barbara.
I've seen it noted that there is a section of society today which is very unhappy with learned women and what they have to say. And I think it's a very unfortunate portion, maybe a poorly educated portion of our society that feels that way, but it's not so different from what the old rabbis thought or what the old rabbis wrote down.
Right. And it's very, very important for us to be aware of that, because we tend to think, oh, what does it have to do with us? But you're right. It has everything to do with us. And so we have to be very careful that we're not following in the negative, that we should be following the rabbis who say women should be studying and they should be learning, and who valorize her for learning, as opposed to those who, put down learning. Okay. Any other comments? Okay.
Her attitude really disturbing.
What?
I find her attitude really disturbing.
Beruriah's attitude.
Yeah, Beruriah's attitude.
Okay, but does that mean she deserves what she gets?
No, but this is just one example. There are other examples where she really is very caring and loving and thoughtful.
Okay, and I know what you're thinking of, but I have a different read on that. Are you talking about the children?
The children.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, I'm not the children, but she dealt with her husband there. Yeah. But she was human. No, but she was. I agree with you, though. She could have been. She wasn't kind.
Right.
Okay.
And I have trouble with people who aren't kind.
So tune in next week, because I want to.
You pick such good topics, Naomi.
Yeah. Okay. Joyce, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say, we're sitting here and we're studying and we're learning, and we women are proud of wherever we are. And I do find it's an amazing, amazing shift away from this question that women were not allowed to for so long. And it's like astonishing. How did that persist?
There's this woman, Sarah Schneer, who started the Beis Yaakov movement.
Right.
No, not just in Judaism. I mean women.
No, not in Judaism either. But because the girls were not learning Jewish things, but they were sent to public school.
Yes.
So she said, "Look, we've got a problem here."
But it's a major, major
issue all over the world.
Yes, all over.
Look at those poor girls in Afghanistan and in Somalia, wherever.
Yeah, absolutely.
We thought we won the battle. We have hardly begun.
We've just maybe begun.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Naomi.
Okay.
And maybe she wasn't unkind. Maybe she was just fed up.
Oh,
No?
that too.
Okay.
He had a bad hair day.
Yeah.
We're allowed that. Sometimes you just have to explode. I mean, the man is stupid,
Good
right?
point. Good point. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you,
Yes,
Naomi.
no.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all.
Everybody,
Shabbat
have a good week.
shalom.
Bye.
Good job.
Bye.